Well, there you have it. Former South African President Jacob Zuma, of course, scenes from his home and, of course, around his supporters after he was set free on Friday following the expiry of his prison sentence for contempt of court. Zuma received a 15-month sentence last year after he ignored instructions to participate in a corruption inquiry. He later handed himself in on July 7th last year also to begin the sentence, triggering the worst violence South Africa has seen in years as his angry supporters took to the streets.
In a statement, Zuma said he felt relieved to be a free man and thanked his supporters. Zuma was earlier released on medical parole in September 2021, but in December, the High Court set aside the parole decision and ordered him to return to jail. He, however, appealed the ruling and remained on parole pending the outcome of the appeal. Now, we know that this case has been an ongoing one. And interestingly, I mean, he did share a report, rather, or would I call it a press release, sharing how excited he is to be released from prison and saying that it reminds him of the time that he was released from prison on Robben Island, at the time when he was jailed with Nelson Mandela. But what he says is that this is a different one because he wasn't given the opportunity to have a fair trial. He was, thrown in court for contempt of court, but wasn't given a fair trial. Now, this has been an ongoing situation, but the people of South Africa seem to support him. The majority of tweets we've seen on social media, there's been a massive outpouring of love for the former president amidst, of course, the allegations of corruption, some standing in his defense, some, of course, criticizing him, but it's just been mixed reactions, a lot of support from the people of South Africa.
Well, I mean, if he's talking about, not being given a fair trial, the reason he was sent to jail in the first place, it wasn't because of the corruption, case or the corruption charge. It was for contempt of court. A lot of times, he was meant to be, in court and he never showed up and all of that. So that's why he was sent to jail. He was, initially, I think in July, and then 2 months later, he was, released on parole for health reasons. And then in December, another court then said, okay, no, we don't agree with those health reasons of that parole and should be sent back to jail. If you remember, sometime this year, it created some of the worst violence South Africa has ever seen. About more than 300 people died, when he eventually was, sent back to jail. And so, I think he should also reflect, in his statements, he should also reflect on the lives of people that were lost, in the protest because he was sent to prison. Some of the things that he mentioned was that he compared his release to being jailed or being released in 1973 in Robben Island.
But the cases
are
were
totally different cases.
Exactly.
I mean, that was the apartheid struggle. He was jailed at the same time with Nelson Mandela back
and
then.
some other ANC
Exactly.
supporters as
Now
well.
this is a corruption allegation that I believe they're still going to look into. If the Ramaphosa government or South African government still wants to take seriously. This is a totally different case, entirely from it. And also, I think you were talking earlier, you were talking about him going back to the ANC and all of that.
Well, some people are calling for that, right? And there are speculations that he should, he is being nominated to be the next ANC chair, or he's been proposed to be the next ANC chair. But that leaves a question to ask. He's going to be, he's 79, right? If I get that correctly, going on 80. And the question is he fit for office? Some South Africans, interestingly, have called for Cyril Ramaphosa to resign, saying that, Cyril should go and they want Jacob Zuma back. However, the same conditions, people had mentioned the fact that he shouldn't go into prison because he's too old to go to prison. And one wonders if the conversation about his age was a key factor in them arguing against him going to prison. Why is it not a key factor when you talk about him running again?
Yeah, but so the thing for me is I'm not sure on the average how many South Africans really miss Jacob Zuma. He would always have supporters. That's one thing, and even the worst leaders across the continent, across the world, would always have supporters. No matter what their crimes or their allegations against them are, So, but this will make you then question, what the approval rating of Cyril Ramaphosa is in South Africa. If there's people who are saying we would like, Zuma back, Ramaphosa should go, but you cannot say it's the whole of South Africa. It could really just be Zuma supporters and people who, like him. Sani Abacha in Nigeria still has supporters. He has, people who loved him, regardless of the things that, he did. And the same thing with, some of the worst leaders across, Africa. But another thing to quickly mention, Zuma is 79. And this seems to be about it's in 2022, while the world is bringing in young 40-year-old, maybe 50-year-old, vibrant leaders. Africa is still hanging around this same age, group. You look at the people contesting election in Nigeria, the two of the parties, that they're about the same age grade. Look at,
Look at Uganda, Museveni.
Exactly, 78, I believe. Zuma is 79. So it seems like you never really are ripe for leadership or presidency until you are hitting your 80s in certain African
countries. When we're younger, they told us that we're the leaders of tomorrow, but it seems that tomorrow looks like the day after tomorrow.